Welcome, my dear students. I am Dev sir. Dev, नाम बहुत छोटा है. So we have completed with light, and now the next topic is human eye and the colorful world. Of course, today I welcome you only to the topic of human eye. Of course, each and every sensory organ, human eye is also a sensory organ. It senses light, and because of light it senses some other things also. All the sensory organs, they are equally important. We cannot go to compare between the sensory organs that which is more important or more valuable and all. But if we go to decide, and if we have to think of that, how, in what way eye is more important, supposing if I have to debate by the side of the eye, then my dear students, it is possible that if I close my eyes and if I try to detect any substance, maybe because of the smell I will be able to detect a substance. Maybe maybe the shape, I can feel the shape, I can feel the hardness, and maybe I'll be able to make out, just try to guess what that substance is. But color, it is not at all possible that with your blind eyes you will be able to make out the color of the subject. It is not possible. So eye plays a very important role, because colors are there in your life because of eyes, because of the light. Colors are there in your eyes, in your life. So in that way, eye and the light becomes very important. And of course, when you have to study your eyesight, then definitely we have to first study your eyeball, basically eyeball. And it is one of the most fascinating device, eyeball. Though it is an organ of the body, but definitely if you consider, it is a type of a device. Why? Because if you just imagine, my dear students, just imagine that when you go to make a device which functions somewhat like an eyeball, then what do you make? You make a camera. You make a camera. But then just look at the lenses, zoom lenses that you wear to your cameras. See, this eye of yours, it can adjust itself. Itself means, now you will come to know in better scientific terms in what way it adjusts, so that you are able to see the objects which are very close, and at the same time I can see the objects which are very far. There are what type of zoom lens are there inside? What is getting adjusted inside? See, if you must have seen the cricket match. If the batsman is batting over there, and to have a closer look to the batsman, there are definitely cameras set on the boundaries or on the outside the fields. And look at the zoom lenses, the length of the zoom lenses they are wearing. The cameras are wearing. They are huge. And what is the size of our eyeball? If I compare our eyeball, which is the organ, if I compare it to the device of the camera, it is just hardly 2.5 centimeter in diameter. And look at the size of the lenses that they are wearing over there to their cameras. So that is the difference, my dear students. We have to understand actually what happens. If we first consider the structure of an eye, then eye is basically almost, I can say, spherical in shape. It is almost spherical in shape. Fine. It is almost spherical in shape. And then there is a membrane. I can say that there is a membrane over here which actually is slightly bulging. It slightly bulges in front of the eye. This is the membrane. This basically is nothing but cornea. This is cornea. Majority of the refraction of light that enters the eye, the majority of refraction takes place in this outer surface of the cornea. Fine. Now look at the system how it is. Basically the lens that we have for the eyes, the lens that we have is basically what? A convex lens. It is basically a convex lens. It could have come nicely down furthermore, sorry. It is basically a convex lens. Fine. This is a crystalline convex lens. And who holds this lens in its position? This over here, they are basically the ciliary muscles. The ciliary muscles, these are the ciliary muscles. The ciliary muscles, they hold them in the position. Fine. And of course these ciliary muscles, they have a major role also to play. See, these ciliary muscles which are holding the lens in its position from here, when they are in relaxed position, when these ciliary muscles are in relaxed position, they are relaxed. That time the lens is becoming thinner. The ciliary muscles are just relaxed position. At that time this lens they become thinner, and because of that the focal length of these which becomes thinner, the focal length increases, and this is the time when the lens is in thin position, we are able to see the far objects clearly. And when I have to see the close by, the nearby objects, when I have to see, when I move my eyes from there to here, when I move my eyes from there to here, then what happens? Or from the far objects to the near objects, at that time the ciliary muscles, they get contracted. The ciliary muscles, they get contracted, and then the lens becomes thicker. The focal length decreases, and then I am able to see the nearby objects clearly because the focal length decreases, and then I am able to see the nearby objects very clearly. This basically is a very important and magical, fascinating thing that is happening in our eyes. When I change my sight from object to object, automatically the ciliary muscles, they relax, they contract, they relax, they contract. The degree of relaxation, the degree of contraction, the degree of relaxation, the degree of contraction of the ciliary muscles, it keeps on changing. How much they will contract, how much they will relax. So accordingly the lens will, how much it will become thicker, how much it will become thinner, and accordingly the focal length keeps on changing. This is very important. When we are using a camera, the zoom lenses that we use, they are doing the same thing. The zoom lenses, they are made in such a way that they will change the focal length of the lens that is used. The zoom lens, it basically is trying to change the focal length. And to change that focal length, we have to make this big device. Try to understand this. And the same thing our eyes do over there very efficiently, and that too in a size of hardly 2.3 centimeter diameter ball. Isn't it fascinating? They keep on changing the focal length, such tiny lens. It keeps on becoming thicker, it keeps on becoming thinner. it keeps on, and this is done by the ciliary muscles over there, and then accordingly the focal length keeps on changing in such a way that for every object, the image will be formed exactly on the retina. Here we have got a retina. Basically here we have a retina. Every time the image should fall on this retina, and then here we have got optic nerves which take the signal to the brain. Nice, na? The screen, this is nothing but the screen that we have learned by now. The screen which actually we think that the image will be formed over here, the image will be formed over there, it will be formed at the focus, it will be formed behind the focus. That keeps on changing. Why? Because the focal length is fixed. That's why the position of the image keeps on changing. But in the case of the eyeball, the screen is fixed. The screen has got one position. What keeps on changing is the focal length keeps on changing, so that every time the image will form on the retina. This is naturally made setup in your eye, which is an organ, but is far more efficient than any device. Are you getting, my dear students? That is the beauty of the topic now. If you are able to understand the beauty of the topic, see how things are there done, what is changing. When we have learned the number of lenses, the ray diagrams by now, we have seen that every time as the position of the object changes, position of the image changes. Very fine. But when it comes to human eye, wherever the object is, at infinity, Chand, at infinity, beyond meters and meters, still the object is, the image of that object will be formed on the retina, and when you bring the object very close to you, hardly a feet, still the object, the image of that object is formed on the retina. Why? Because the focal length is continuously changing, and this property of the eye is called as power of accommodation. It can accommodate every image properly by adjusting its focal length, that the image of every object is formed on the retina. That property of the eye by which it can accommodate its focal length properly, so that image of every object is formed on the retina, that property of eye is called as power of accommodation. Power of accommodation. This is a very important property of human eye. Very important property of a human eye it is basically. And this topic goes further again, because we have come over here, I am shifting from this topic over there. Here we have got, because of this power of accommodation, this power of accommodation has got a range. Like supposing, how close can I bring any object? If I decide to read any book, how close I can hold it over here now, because I have got specs. That topic will come. So basically, when your age is there, you can hold it closer over here. You bring it closer, then it becomes faint. Now you are not able to read the text clearly, and then maybe you will be straining your eyes, right? So this is not right. Your power of accommodation is not helping you now. Maximum around 25 centimeter, that is the least distance where you can distinctly see or read the text distinctly. This distinct is a nice word. Distinct means clear and separate from each other. You can, otherwise what happens, see, it is not possible to read. If I write like this, I am writing, it is not possible to read it so properly, because each alphabet is mixing with each other. Unless and until the alphabets are distinctly seen, they are clearly seen, A, B, H, I, then only I will be able to read this word Abhishek. Are you getting? So this is called as you are able to see the image distinctly. Distinctly means everybody clear cut, separate from each other. That word is very nice word. So when for that, what is the closest distance that I will have is called as least distance of distinct vision. This is least distance of distinct vision. It is also called as near point. Near point. Near point. So at this point you will be able to see least distance, minimum this distance. Minimum distance where my vision is distinct. Distinct means I can separately see each alphabet, each object clearly, separately from each other. They don't mix with each other. That distance is called as least distance of distinct vision, and it is approximately 25 centimeter for a normal person. For me it is different because with the help of, as you age, as I have become, my age is more now, at this age of mine, these ciliary muscles, they lose their functioning. They don't operate very nicely. They are unable to change the focal length. The crystalline lens also is unable to become thin and thick accordingly, and that's why the image is not exactly formed on the retina. And this starts from the nearby objects. At present I can see the far away objects. Bus ka number aa raha hai, so I can read the bus number nicely without specs, but I will not be able to read. My near point has gone far, which was 25 centimeter, least distance of distinct vision. Near point was 25 centimeter. Now it has gone far. If I remove my specs and I go to read, I have to hold it like this and then I will be able to read. So it has gone far. So this will happen with age. So that is what it is. So this is power of accommodation. The least is least distant of distinct vision, which is near point, and of course we also have the farthest point, or that is called as far point. This is basically, it should be infinity. Up till infinity I should be able to, of course you are not supposed to read, but whatever objects are there you will be able to see them clearly. It is supposed to be about some meters away, so you go about some meters. If the object is large enough in size, you will be able to see it. So this is basically far point and near point. You are talking about these 2 points, and then between this range your eyes can accommodate itself so that they are able to read everything properly. That is called as power of accommodation. Fine, my dear students. So this is how the ciliary muscles, and this is your lens. Crystalline lens. Fine, this is your crystalline lens. So, and now what you require over here, in front of the lens there is a dark color structure which again has the ability to expand and contract. This structure has the ability to expand and contract. It can come forward, it can basically, see this space is there, this space, it can, this is space means it is basically an opening. This space is basically an opening. It can contract the opening or it can expand the opening. Try to understand. It can make the opening bigger or it can make the opening smaller. This opening is why I am talking about the opening, because this opening plays a very important role. This is called as pupil. This is called as pupil, and this is basically your iris. The color of the eye is because of the iris. if anybody is black colored eyes, if any is brown colored eyes, this basically is because of the color of the iris. And this pupil plays a role how much eye will enter into the lens. How much light will enter into the lens is regulated by the pupil. If the pupil is very small, less amount of light will enter. If the pupil is very small, the iris will contract the pupil becomes small, and then less amount of light will enter. The iris will expand the pupil, so more amount of light will enter. This how much amount of light will enter is regulated by the pupil, which again is controlled by the iris. Are you getting? This is very important because see, you must have practiced it or noticed it when actually you go into any cinema hall. If after the movie has started, when everything is dark, especially when you go for a matinee show, outside there is sunny, it's bright outside, and from there you enter into the cinema hall, which is dark. Suddenly you will see that you are unable to see things properly, and then you widen your eyes, widen your eyes. That time you are actually expanding your pupil because you want more amount of light to enter into your eyes. More amount of light to enter into your eyes. Are you getting, my dear students? Similarly, when you finish the movie and you go out, and supposing there is like 12 to 3 movie, you go 3 o'clock, there is bright sun outside, and you have been watching the movie in this dark room. When you go outside, then there is a huge amount of light, it is entering into your eyes, and then you tend to close your eyes. You are basically trying to contract your pupil. No, you don't want so much light to enter into your eyes. You are regulating the amount of light entering into your eyes. Are you getting, my dear student? So this regulation is done by pupil. Pupil plays a role over here. Fine. And then of course there is a fluid. Here there is a fluid. Here there is a fluid over here also. The fluid over here is called as aqueous humor, and the fluid over here is called as vitreous humor. Fine. So this is how the structure of the eye is functioning, and how it is functioning. See here, the light enters into the eye via cornea. The maximum refraction of light takes place on the outer surface of the cornea. Then it has to go into the pupil, which is regulated by the iris, which is dark colored. And this pupil will decide how much amount of light will enter into the lens. And once the light enters into the lens, then it converges. Yes or no? It is going to converge. Why? Because this is a convex lens used over here. We have in our eyes, there is a convex lens only. So the light will converge and then form a image on the retina. What type of image will be formed on the retina? Of course, a real and inverted image will be formed on the retina, because convex lens, when the image is formed on the other side of the lens, it will definitely give you only a real and inverted image, nothing other than that. And then what happens? How does this real and inverted image, if it is real and inverted image, so am I looking everything inverted? No. Then what happens? These signals which are taken to the brain takes those signals. All the signal of inverted images only have gone to the brain, but the brain then manipulates this image and makes it erect. and we see the erect image, because it's the brain who shows us the exact image. Nice, my dear students. It is really very fascinating. I really find it, all these things are really fascinating for me. It happens like this. Okay, my dear students, so this is what the function of I. I hope I have completed most of the things. Have I left out with anything? No, I don't think I have left out with anything. Except one more thing. Why do we have two eyes for vision and not just one? This is again very interesting thing, but this actually again is nature made. See, basically what happens is that our eyes, we have two eyes at a time, but we can see only one object. Both the eyes are looking at you and seeing you. Though I know there is a fan over there, though I know there is a pillar over here, though I know there is a door over here, there is another door over here, there is a fan over here, I can see blur images of that, but basically I am seeing you people only. Fine. So, but what is that? Now here, if supposing I have my one eye shut, then the range that I have got over here is approximately 150 degree. 150 degree is the range, angle of my range. And same when I keep both of my eyes open, then it is 180 degree approx. Okay, my dear students, one more important thing. See, basically what happens if I am looking at any one thing, if I am looking at this duster, both the eyes are not looking the same thing of the duster. They have got slight variations. The image of that eye, left eye, and the image of the right eye, both are looking at the duster, but they will have slight amount of variation. The right eye will have slight amount of variation, the left eye will have slight amount of variation. Actually, if I keep my one eye shut and look at the duster, then I will be able to see only a 2D image, a flat image, only a flat image, length and breadth. I will not be able to see the depth. Three-dimensional image I will not be able to see. I will be able to see only 2D image when I see the duster like this. But the same duster when I see properly, then I will be able to see the depth also properly. Then I am able to see the image clearly three-dimensional. Some animals, especially the animals who hunt, they have eyes on the opposite sides. They have eyes on the opposite sides. They don't look at one object at a time. The brain is programmed in that fashion. And then they are able to see the wider angle as compared to us. That is the reason, the difference between when they have two, we have two eyes, because then our range is wider. With two eyes, our range is wider, the angle of range is wider, and secondly, we see the clearer images. With one eye, we will be able to see the images flat in 2D dimensions only, and with the help of the two eyes, we are able to see three-dimensional images, because definitely there is a variation in the image created by this object and the image created by this object. Slight variation. When these two images come together, I get a clearer picture, a detailed picture. Okay, my dear students. So with this, I feel the topic of eye gets over. Topic of eyeball, not the eye. Topic of eyeball gets over. So this is how you are supposed to draw the diagram, of course. So now when we go to the topic of eye further, then basically the very important topic we have got, and that is defects of vision, defects of vision and correction. This is again a very important topic, a big topic. Multiple number of questions can be possible to be asked on this topic. Defects of vision and its correction. Now what happens in this is that basically, see, there are minimum three types of defects. One is myopia, which is called as nearsightedness. Second is hypermetropia, which is far-sightedness. And this is another one is presbyopia. Fine, this doesn't have any Indian name. See here, my dear students, this is very important. Now you have to understand these things. I should have written why I realize things afterwards. Myopia, which is also called as nearsightedness. Fine. This was proper. Hypermetropia, which is also called as far-sightedness. I'll look after this afterwards. This doesn't have much of images and all, presbyopia. But definitely these two topics are very, very, very important. They can come in short notes. You can have a short note on that. Then you can have long answer questions on there, or only you can have diagrams on them, or you can have only what do we say? Short answer means only the answers in 1 points, 2 points, 3 points. Distinguish between also is possible in both the cases. So many type of questions are possible, and they are very big topic. Not very big topic, but they have got a depth in the topic. Now, first and foremost, try to understand the meaning of this. Nearsightedness. Nearsightedness means what do you feel? Nearsighted. Nearsighted means near. Near means nazdik ka. Sighted. You are able to see the objects that are near, or you are unable to see the objects that are near. What does this name suggest? Now here, my dear students, most of the times what happens, there are number of students who feel nearsightedness means I am not able to see nearsighted people. No, don't do that mistake. It is not nearsighted less. It is not nearsighted less. It is nearsightedness. Ness means yes, it is there. Happiness means I am supposed to be happy. Are you getting my point? So happiness means happy is there. So nearsightedness means the person is able to see near objects. Don't get confused in this English. Fine. So see, of course, so definitely now you are understanding the meaning of that. So that is the nearsightedness. What is the problem with the person who is suffering with nearsightedness? He is able to see the near objects, but he is unable to see the far objects. Are you getting my point? The person suffering from myopia is able to see the near objects, but he is unable to see the far objects. So of course then opposite will happen with hypermetropia or far-sightedness. So this person is able to see far objects, but is unable to see the near objects. Are you getting my point? See what I am telling. Remember this. I am not going to write everything. Okay? This you have to understand. Understand from the name. Nearsightedness, able to see nearby objects. Far-sightedness, able to see far away objects. But then he is unable to see far objects and he is unable to see the near objects. Now what happens? Why these things happen? So basically what happens? This happens mostly because, now see, mostly because of the elongation of the eyeball. Elongation of the eyeball. Now because of the elongation of the eyeball, or because basically the curvature of the lens, that also increases. Now because of that, what happens? The nearby objects, lens, the image is formed properly on the retina. Fine. But the far objects का now what happens? The distance has increased. So what happens? The image is formed in front of the retina, and that's why he is unable to see the nearby objects. Are you getting my point? So this is the reason. What is the defect? The defect is that the images of the far away objects is formed in front of the retina, whereas the near objects is formed properly over there. Okay, so that is the problem, and it is because elongation of eyeball, you can say, or because of the curvature of the lens has changed. Fine. Now what do you feel? What should we do so that this image will be formed over here? Of course, first of all, decide whether you are going to use which type of lens, a converging lens, convex lens, or a diverging lens, concave lens. Which? See, basically what happens, the image is formed over here. So you want to do what? What should happen? This is crossing over here. What do you want? This should open up and intersect here. Yes, it should open up and then it will go and intersect here. So you want what? The refracted rays should diverge, should open, they should diverge. Only when the refracted rays, these who are meeting over here, I want to meet them late. They should meet late. They should not meet over here. They should travel some more distance and then they should meet each other. So they should open up. Instead of getting over here, they should open. If I use a converging lens, if I use a lens which is converging lens, what will happen? They will converge faster. They will converge earlier, and instead of meeting over here, they will meet over here. My purpose is defeated. So I will have to use a diverging lens. So what happens when I use a diverging lens? This is still an elongated eyeball. Fine. So how are you going to show this? This is your lens. Now what you are going to do is that you are going to place a diverging lens over here of suitable focal length. That is again very important. Of suitable focal length means it should go and meet on the retina. It should not open so much that after opening it will go and meet outside behind the retina. No, it should open that much only where it will converge afterwards and meet on the retina. So you have to appropriately choose the focal length of this concave lens. So what happens? The light that is coming from the far away objects, now this because it is a diverging lens, this light this light will diverge. So after diverging, it will open up from here, right? This you should be able to show. This should be seen in your diagram that the ray of light, parallel ray of lights, parallel to the principal axis, they diverge and then they fall on the convex lens of eyeball. And because now they have got a converging lens, so now they will converge, and now they will converge so much that the image will be formed on the retina. This should be properly seen. These are the diagrams. The diagram should be showing these things. Of course, you have to write in detail the near objects, far away objects. The near objects, see the image is formed on the retina. Far away object, image is formed in front of the retina. You have to write it over there. Here, the lens used is concave lens. Concave lens. the far away object's image is formed on the retina. So this is the correction done. In this way, the correction is done. So if I have to write short note on myopia, the first of all I have to explain what is myopia. Myopia, the person suffering from myopia is able to see the nearby objects, but is unable to see the objects far away from him. This is the problem with the myopia. Why? What is the reason of this myopia? This happens maybe because of the elongation of eyeball or because of the curvature of the eye lens. Because of this, the image of the nearby objects is formed on the retina, but the image of the far away object is formed in front of the retina. This is the description of the defect with reason. Now correction. How will you correct it? On diagrams also I have done. Diagrams also are needed. How will you correct it? The correction is done by using a concave lens of suitable focal length, so that the refracted rays diverge and then converge to form an image on the retina. Fine. Everything is given. So this is how I have covered myopia or nearsightedness. Now I will have to go for hypermetropia or farsightedness. Of course, as I have told you, hypermetropia, here the person is able to see the far away objects but is unable to see the near objects. Here the reason for, now here of course you will have to draw the diagram for this, what happens, but the reason for this is flattening of the eyeball, exactly opposite of the hypermetropia, and of course otherwise the change of the curvature. So of course what happens, the image of the far away object is definitely formed on the retina, but the image of the near objects is formed behind the retina. The image of the nearby object is formed behind the retina. Are you getting my point? This you will have to show the defect like this. Now what you will do, now what happens, this image which is formed behind the retina, you want to converge it earlier, you want to meet them earlier. So what you will do, you will use a converging lens. Fine. You will have to use a converging lens. The nearby objects, the rays coming from nearby objects, they converge over here. Fine. And then they again meet to form the image on the retina. First they converge and that's why they meet earlier. So we have to use a converging lens of suitable focal length so that the image is formed properly on the retina. So this is the way hypermetropia, you understand it faster once you have understood myopia properly, because of course they are opposite to each other. If you go for distinguish between, many points are there, many points are there. Myopia, the person is able to see nearby objects. Here the person is able to see far objects. Here the person is unable to see the far away objects. Here the person is unable to see near objects clearly. Fine. Here the image of the far objects is formed in front of the retina, whereas the image of the near object is formed on the retina. Here the image of the far away object is formed on the retina, whereas the image of the near object is formed behind the retina. You can include this point. This is because of the elongation of eyeball. This is because of the flattening of eyeball. This is done. Then how do you correct the images? The correction is done with the help of using concave lens of suitable focal length. Here the correction is done by using convex lens of suitable focal length. Okay, my dear student, these are more than sufficient points for distinguish between of myopia and hypermetropia. So by this we cover these two topics, and then comes presbyopia. Presbyopia is basically for the people like me, because of age, the ciliary muscles, they lose their functions, and the lens also is unable to function properly, and because of that, first what happens is that we are unable to see the nearby objects clearly. The image, the near point moves away from 25 centimeter. So that is basically called as presbyopia. Also, sometimes what happens, sometimes people get both the defects, myopia also and hypermetropia also. That is also called as presbyopia. In that case, what happens, the people who are suffering from both the defects simultaneously, this happens at a very higher age. At a very higher age, then the person is unable to see both the things. He is unable to read and is unable to see the far away objects also. At that time, he will be using bifocal lens. Bifocal. At this moment, people are using unifocal lens. Only a reading lens is there in the down part. Upper part is a clear glass. But then what happens when presbyopia is there, at that time he will be using bifocal lens. Down part will be actually having a lens which means basically a convex lens, whereas the upper part will be having a concave lens. Are you getting my dear students? So that is the thing. With this, I think I have cleared off the topic. Presbyopia. Fine. That's all. We have finished. Of course, there is a huge topic yet left. Many interesting things to be learned. Many important interesting things. Actually, like how power of accommodation is there. That the eye has got the power to adjust its focal length, so that we are able to see the near objects and the far away objects also. The images of the near objects and the far away objects both are formed on the retina. That ability of the eyeball is called as power of accommodation of the eyeball. Similarly, one more interesting topic is there of the eye, that is called as persistence of vision. I used to like this topic very much. Persistence of vision. Of course, this is coming later because this is just a property of eyeball, and we use this property of human eye. Persistence means anything persists, means it stays, it continues to stay, is called as persist. Persistence of vision means vision persists, vision continues to stay even after the object is removed from your eyesight. Even after you are seeing this object, you continuously see this object for some time, and you shut your eyes, you will be still able to see that pen in front of you, the image of the pen in front of you, because the image created in your brain, it continues to stay over there even when you remove this object. It continues to stay over there for a very fraction of a second. And what is that fraction of a second? 1/6 of a second. 1/6 of a second. 60 है ना कि 16th है? I'll have to see that, but I think it's 1/6 of a second. Well, it is interesting. I like it very much. That is basically you are able to see that 1/6 or 1/16th. I am very sorry, but we'll have to check that. But that is what is interesting. See this finger of mine. You are able to see this. Can you just see that it is the fade image of that is able to see, because when the finger is over here and it moves from here to here, the image of that finger continues to stay in your brain. It continues to stay in your brain, and that's why that image of flap is continuously seen. And this happens everywhere. You must have seen that book that you used to have. In our time, we used to have Sunil Gavaskar or Sachin Tendulkar. Multiple pictures of Sachin Tendulkar is standing in one stance of batting, and then he lifts his bat, and then he moves one step ahead, again a step ahead, again a step ahead, and then he hits a ball. there are multiple images kept in one page, series of images kept page wise in a book, and then you flap the book, the pages are flapped like this, and you happen to see Sachin Tendulkar batting. Why this happens? Because one image is there and it has to be done fast. It has to be done fast. Why? Because by the time the next image comes in front of you, the previous image is still there in your brain, and before that image is wiped out from your brain, the second image comes in front of you, and before this second image is wiped out from your brain, third image comes in front of you, and then this continues, and then eventually you create a sequence, continuous sequence among all the images, and that's why you feel that there is a live action taking place over there. And this is what the concept is used for while making movies also. While making movies, when the invention of movies was done, it was done with the same thing. They used to take, when the person is giving a shoot, he's acting over there, they took multiple pictures up to maybe 100 pics in 1 second, 120 pics in 1 second, 200 pics in 1 second. They take continuous pics, and then when these pics they are taken and then they are shot, they make to run that movie in front of you, you feel that that person is acting over there. Actually there is nobody over there. There is an image over there. Series of images, they are running at a very high speed, and before one image is actually wiped out from your brain, the other image comes over there, and before that is wiped out from your brain, the other image comes over there, and that series, you feel that live thing is happening over there. This picture theater is existing only because of the quality of human eye and human brain, which is called as persistence of vision. You must have seen this persistence of vision only, even during firecrackers. Full baja, full jhadi. If you hold that full jhadi in your hand, which is actually burning full jhadi, and then you make a ring, so you are able to see the ring, a fire ring in air. When you circle it slowly, you will not be able to see any ring. Circle it fast, and then you will be able to see a ring over there, because of the same thing. That when before the image of a point is lost, your full jhadi should come back to that point. Before the image vanishes from your brain, the full jhadi should come back to that point, and this should happen at every point. If that thing happens before it vanishes from your brain, you are bringing it back to that point. With that speed, if you are moving the full jhadi, then you are able to see a complete ring, and faster you do, brighter the ring is. That is because of persistence of vision. Okay, my dear students, with this I stop the topic of the day. Actually the topic was only eye, but I just happened to go with it, persistence of vision and everything. So we will go for the next topics. They are equally very beautiful, fascinating. See you all, my dear students. Love you all. Thank you.